Hello everyone, my name is Thor and welcome back to Anthropology. Alright, thank you for joining me in today's video. If this is your first time, welcome. My name is Thor. On this channel I talk all about things fashion related, mindful consumption, and the like. If that sounds like something you're interested in and you're not already subscribed, please do so now. Like, comment, put the notification bell on to be notified when I post. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back. So glad that you're here in this one. So this video is going to be a bit more relaxed. It's going to be basically around a philosophy that I've really started to try and adopt lately. And it's basically, don't let your things own you. So I'm going to be getting a little bit into this, what I mean by it. Don't work for your things. Your things shouldn't own you. Your things shouldn't be your sole reason for work. And this is definitely a trap that I found myself in before, and I'm still trying to get out of it. So if it sounds like something you're interested in, keep watching. So on my luxury minimalism, general minimalism journey, I've been confronted recently with the fact that I have to move, and I'll be changing my current environment. We will be downsizing significantly, just given the current property housing crisis that we're facing. I feel like this housing crisis is impacting a lot of people everywhere. It feels very acute to me in Vancouver because the apartments are getting smaller and the rent is getting more expensive. So the trade-off is, not a great one. We're definitely getting the shorthand. So being confronted with the fact that I'm going to have to roughly half the square footage that I'll have access to has really forced me to look at my things with a more critical lens and analyze my philosophy around, purchasing stuff, my philosophy around owning things. And it's really made me think, for the past 2 years, honestly, since the pandemic, I have been working for my things. I have been purchasing, putting them potentially on credit cards, working to pay that off, and then I get caught in a cycle where my credit card bill is always sort of looming behind me. It always gets paid off. Always pay off your credit card before it's due. But I feel like I was constantly in this cycle of having to work for my things where I wasn't working for myself, if that makes sense. So this is sort of my philosophy. My dad used to tell me when I was growing up, don't work for your things, don't let your things own you. And obviously growing up, I had no concept of that. It was very abstract to me. It's like, obviously my things can't own me, I own them. But it is really more subtle than that. And I think, looking at just a lot of the stats recently, like the amount of debt to income ratio that people have, I think I saw in Canada, and I'll put the correct statistic here, but it's like for every dollar that Canadians bring into the home, they owe $1.80 or something like that. I'll put the statistic, and I'm using Canadian statistics because I'm Canadian, but I feel like it's fairly similar in the States. It's fairly similar in, any sort of Western globalized country. We are, we're addicted to stuff in the West. We love stuff. We love to purchase stuff. We love to consume stuff. We love to have stuff around our house. It is a part of our identity. And, people often attribute personal style, what stuff represents me as a person. And I feel like, for me personally, I gave a lot of my power to my stuff. Especially on this channel, my stuff sort of owned me. My stuff definitely characterized me. I characterized myself as someone who purchased luxury goods, as someone who wore nice handbags, as someone who, who was all of these things associated with the stuff. But it became to the point where the stuff was really starting to consume me, where I wasn't consuming the stuff, if that makes sense. And I've had a real back and forth on this channel, sort of how I wanted to continue, how I wanted to go, how I want to exist in a space where I feel like I no longer want to consume like I did. I no longer want to have the same philosophy around consumption as I once did on this channel, while also continuing the channel and not alienating you all as an audience. So I have a few little points that I want to talk about here in relation to this. I would love to know how everyone is feeling down in the comments below, so feel free to pause this video, let me know where you're at right now, or do it at the end, whatever works best for you. But I have 3 points around how you can not let your things own you. And I think a lot of it comes down to the debt cycle. And what I mean by that is only buy what you can afford. If you only buy what you can afford, then your stuff will never own you, because you won't be working for your stuff. You won't be working to pay off your stuff. I mean, some examples where you work for your things a mortgage. You know, everyone seems to have a mortgage. The housing crisis is making it so everyone needs a mortgage unless you're like the 0.0001% or whatever. But you're working for your home. You know, we work so we can live. We work so we can afford to feed ourselves, so we can afford to clothe ourselves. But in the West, it's gone to a point where it's beyond the basic goods at this point. You know, maybe with the recession, things are going back a little bit to back to basics, as you say. But it got to a point, I think, in the pandemic where everyone was, well, I won't say everyone, but a lot of people, especially viewers of this channel, were coping with the pandemic through the consumption of things. And it sort of got to a point where, you know, Afterpay, companies that, you know, buy now, pay later companies were really, they really feed into this cycle, and they really promote the cycle of working for your things. You buy something now, but you have to pay it off over 4 months, which means you have to continue to work for the next 4 months, essentially, in order to pay off your debts. I really came to the realization that no item is worth the debt. And I'm gonna like specify for like luxury goods or, you know, extra consumption. Obviously, you know, feed yourself, get your basics covered, but anything extra on top of that, I feel like it's really not worth the burden of debt. This is obviously a very privileged, you know, piece, but this channel, you know, that's basically all this is about. So I really came to the realization that no item is worth the debt that, and the anxiety that it gives you. I feel like when I was working for my stuff, an example that I'll give is my Celine Nano bag. I purchased that, like, as soon as I saw it, I purchased it. And it was almost like I literally had no critical thinking skills at that point. Everything went out the window. I saw the bag and I immediately needed to have it. And the price was $3,640, but that like didn't mean anything to me. Did I have the funds available at that time? I did in a savings account, but looking back, that is a big regret of mine. I wish I didn't pull that money out. I wish I would have thought more about the purchase. I wish I would have been more, I guess, critical about it, but I didn't think at all. I just purchased it. And then you know, once I received the bag, everything was great. But then afterwards, I feel like I spiraled a little bit because I was like, okay, now I need to service this debt. I need to pay this debt off, and I need to work more to pay it off. So nothing is worth that. Another thing which really pays into like, is an item worth it, is think about the time that it takes you to earn the money equivalent to the item. Oftentimes when I do this exercise, when I'm like, ooh, that would be really nice to have, I will do this exercise where I'm like, okay, how much would I have to work in order to purchase this item? You can look at it in two ways. One is like work generally, like how many hours would it take you based on your current salary, based on your current hourly wage to purchase said item, but then also how long would it take you to save for this item? Now, saving for the item is different because you obviously have to remove all of your fixed costs, such as housing, food, you know, potential transport. So it really puts it into perspective what you can and can't afford. And for me, I was living in La La Land. I literally had no concept. I was not rooted in reality. And I was just buying whatever I wanted when I wanted because I saw the money available. So I figured I could buy it. But just because you can buy something doesn't mean you can afford to buy something. And that was a big sort of click moment to me recently. And it may sound, you know, like duh to some people, but for me, I learned it recently. And I feel like if I learned it recently, chances are there are people that are still learning this. And hopefully this video can help them in some way. But just because you can buy something doesn't mean you can afford to buy something. And I think that's like a really big distinction. And I feel like there's very little control around shopping. All we see from the media, all we see from like Western society is we need to shop more in order to keep the economy growing because so much of the economy in North America is based off of personal consumption. When people stop consuming, the economy goes down. We're seeing all these headlines now. Basically, people, millennials and Gen Z, whatever, are not purchasing luxury goods. They're only buying necessities, which means like the economy is going down. Some sectors are being ruined. You know, millennials ruin the diamond industry. Millennials are ruining X, Y, and Z industry. It's just because people cannot afford to buy all of these extra goods. Also, as I downsize into a smaller space, it's really forced me to think about clutter. And I've decluttered a few times on this channel, but space in your home, to me, equals space in your mind, which opens you up to peace. And I find, for me personally, my partner is different, but a cluttered home gives me anxiety. If I see a bunch of stuff and it's just all over the place, I feel cramped, and moving into an increasingly smaller space will make me feel even more cramped. And I'm just like, I don't want to be surrounded by things. I don't want to be consumed by my consumption. So it's been like a lot of thinking around this. I've been thinking about downsizing my collection, although it's really not a good time to sell, you know, used luxury goods on the market. The market has gone down, obviously, as people can no longer afford to purchase like they once did throughout the pandemic. Pandemic stimulus has run out. You know, there's a recession, so people are trying to save money. Also, layoffs are prevalent. So people are not consuming as they once did. And I feel like, what's the end point for all this consumption? At what point do we have enough things? For me, I definitely think I have too many things. And going through the constant cycle of decluttering and then like bringing more in, it's become exhausting, where I'm just like, I don't want to consume anymore. I just don't want to bring anything else in until I've used up what I have. I've come to this realization, and I'm sure if like you go through this exercise after watching this video, you will come to see as well. If you look around your house, I mean, this is different for everybody, but if you look around your house, a typical Western house, you will see so much extra stuff, just clutter, just things that we don't use, things that we forget about, things that we don't think about. And like, look at how big the personal storage industry has gotten, because people need more space for more things. People just bring things all along their lives because we identify with our things, we have emotional attachment to our things, we have memories attached to our things. All in all, I feel like that makes our things own us in some way, and we need to, well, I need to, and I'm trying to, and hopefully I'm gonna help other people take control back of their things and start to re-own their life again, in a sense. I mean, that's super dramatic, but still. So that's where I'm at. I'm really trying to move away from my things owning me, and basically get into the sense of me owning my things again. So that's my video. I know it's a bit rambly, a bit all over the place, a bit more philosophical. If you enjoyed it, please let me know your thoughts down below. Please like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already, and I hope to see you all next time. Bye, guys.